Yeah, folks, Quillykin here. Welcome to Let's Play Songs of Syx, this really epic fantasy city builder. We're talking something in a way reminiscent of Dwarf Fortress, in some ways bigger than Dwarf Fortress. Certainly the city populations are going to get a lot more, and the maps are a lot bigger. We don't have Z levels. We don't dig down into the ground, of course, so size depends on your perspective. Dwarf Fortress is bigger or Songs of Syx is bigger. Either way, we're talking about some epic game. Now, I played this years ago, a long time ago, and I've always wanted to revisit it. And there's been a lot more chatter about it over on my channel. I guess I'm maybe not that far away from maybe a 1.0 drop of the game, but we're currently playing on version 0.71.44 here, and I'm excited to do it. This menu screen is gorgeous. The game visuals themselves are much more lo-fi than this gorgeous menu might lead you to think, but it's still very, very effective, and I'm really excited to jump into this. So let's go. We'll hit play. We're gonna go random game. The campaigns are basically tutorials. I did go and reacquaint myself with that. Also, a shout out to Green Elite, who's provided me with an excellent starter guide on the Discord. By the way, if you are a YouTube member, a Twitch subscriber, or a Patreon supporter, you can get in on the Discord where you tell me what games to play, basically, and we chat about all kinds of things. Anyway, we're gonna random game, and these are not exactly difficulty settings, because there's Utopia, sure, and Despot, which is the standard gameplay. You may think, okay, these are difficulty settings, but what a lot of these are actually different gameplay settings that you can tweak in custom settings to change your experience, which is kind of nifty. Anyway, we're gonna play on the standard mode here, Despot. Standard difficulty, Syx will resist your efforts to shape it. Expect to spend a long time mastering it. Sounds good to me. Go. And then we are going to choose our species. Now, just a quick review. The Kryptonians, I guess they're kind of orky. They get listed as easy. I think they're really easy to keep happy and get started. That's kind of cool. The Dondorians are effectively the dwarves of this world, which makes them fairly appealing. They do have a hard challenge listed. A big part of the reason is, I think, based on the fact that Dondorians are never born. They sort of spawn wholesale out of the mountain somewhere, and I think they're a little trickier to work with. They're really poor farmers mostly, so I think food might be a little bit of an issue. We've got this bug race, the Garthini. We've got humans. We've got the Amevian, the lizard folk who love water and fishing, and the Talapi, which, when you try to Google anything about this game, Google always tries to autocorrect it to tilapia. It's like, no. Anyway, the Talapi, which are cannibal jungle elves, which is very appealing. Of course, with our background of playing a whole lot of Dwarf Fortress, for example, we're used to thinking pro-dwarf, anti-elf. It would be funny to do an alternate reality version where we're all elfy. But, you know, especially these kinds of elves over here. I was really drawn to this. The only thing is, the Talapi like round buildings. And I thought, you know what, do I want to deal with having to design all these round buildings, a lot of diagonals and stuff? They do make for interesting looking cities based on other screenshots, but I thought for this one, I might want something a little bit more square, a little bit more. I wanted a city that looked in the end more like a huge medieval city. And that's why, while it might sound a little bit boring, I think I'm gonna go for humans. They're still listed as a medium challenge. I love that they're prone to criminal activity and insanity. They also have unremarkable soldiers, so when we do get into warfare, we might lose a whole bunch of people. Now, this is simply our starting species. We can absolutely recruit more people of different species as we go forward into the game. However, not all species get along very well. For some reason, people kind of hate the Talapi, or they kind of hate everyone else, I suppose. Maybe it's related to some of this cannibalism stuff. I'm not sure. So we can do that, but it can be a little challenging. So we might end up going with a big multicultural metropolis later on, or we might keep ourselves 100% focused on humans. And that certainly, I think in the early game, I think I'm going to be hard focused on humans and just focus on a smaller subset of needs that we can meet that will satisfy the entire population as a whole. The humans do say they get along with all other species. I think there's still the problem where the Talapi, if they were in a human city, they would be unhappy. The humans would be fine with it, but they would be unhappy, I think, is the situation. So humans are regarded as the final creation of the Astari. So the final species, I think, created by the gods, possessing free will and a flexible mind. Ancient men were immortal, but when they sided with Amun in the Second War of the Gods, they were punished with mortality. Humans make excellent researchers and administrators. They're also fairly good at farming. And I do like the idea of having a big agricultural city. Bread, meat, mushrooms, and eggs are their favorite foods. All right, let's go. And oh my God, I could be doing this forever. Forgive me, I don't think I'm going to spend too much time customizing my flag, which is a shame. I think you can go and do it in between episodes. Sorry, I think you can do it after the game is loaded. You can change your banner, and I think you might be able to change your faction name and ruler name as well. So I might do a little bit of manipulation in between episodes. I actually quite like the green background. The pink foreground is not really for me. We could go more purely red. Part of me is like, hold on, can I draw a Brussels sprout? And the answer to that is no, I cannot draw at all. Part of me does want to break up this pattern a little bit more. Is it control click to invert? The little dot, it was kind of neat. You know, maybe we just go with a second sort of inner circle. Just for now. You know what? I don't hate it. We're going to go with that. I think this changes the background. So we can have some like more of these tattered banners. I don't know. I think I'll stick with this. We'll do that. And if I can customize it in game, I might do this, but I don't want to spend 30 minutes or more. I mean, I think this is a 16 by 16 image. There's only so much you can do, although people are really impressive with the things that they do. So let's confirm. You can choose, I think this is basically choosing sort of a map generator archetype over here. I don't know if these are fixed. Maybe they are. Maybe those are 100% fixed maps. That's entirely possible. I don't know. But I'm going to go... Oh. Is that Great Britain? Okay, maybe they are fixed maps. That's funny. Okay, but we're just going to go random. And I'll put in a random seed here. Now, once the map is generated, you can still regenerate it. So I'm not sure if this might only be for the initial generation. So if I re-roll things, I think it might be different. And I think once you place your capital and then it generates the rest of the kingdoms, I think that randomness is going to vary based on exactly where you place your capital as well, which sort of makes sense. So here's the world map, and we are going to choose where to embark, basically, if we're thinking about a dwarf fortressy kind of way. And as we mouse over these various squares, we do some information. Now, if we go far to the north, it will be cold. If we go far to the south, it will be warm. Both these have a lot of modifiers that might complicate things. It's been highly recommended that we choose a temperate place to start with. In this panel, so the temperate is what determines those modifiers. So in temperate climate, the auric pastures generate more, the warbeast pastures generate less. The entellodont pastures generate more as well. Entellodonts are basically pigs or boars, I suppose, in this setting. And then after that, we can see resources that are available. So in the place I'm highlighting now, it's got a little bit of clay. It's got 0%, I don't remember what that second one is. Only 6% gems, 0% other resource, 0% other resource, 33% stone. That is terrible. Now, non-mountain areas are going to have fewer of those resources. Like if I pick a spot that's got a lot of mountain in it, like 32% over here, for example, you can see the numbers are huge. Clay is low because clay is mostly going to be where water is, but we could do a lot of mining over here. I kind of feel like with my humans, what I want is a lot of farmable land. Now, it's possible that I could take a place that's got a lot of forest, like this would be 100% forest, and then chop it down to clear it. But I think the soil where the forest grows is actually different. So if I really want to do a lot of agriculture, I think I really do want a decent amount of open land. And yeah, we might be a little lower on those resources, but we can always trade for them as well. One of these, 57% stone is interesting. We get a little bit of water. We get a big river in the south there. A lot of clay in this area. We could do some pottery work, for example. This spot is kind of interesting to me. Oh, as I say, the location's isolated, less trade. Yeah, I don't want that. Yeah, that was really interesting though. And that's double plus on good for things. Our location is isolated. Oh, okay, over here it's not isolated. But there it is. What about a completely different spot? I don't think that's going to be good for us. Wow, look at the resources here, but there's a lot of mountain. Well, this is actually, hang on a second. Is this really interesting? Oh, it doesn't have 100% moisture. It's a little bit dry, but we do have access to fresh water, which we could use to irrigate. And if nothing else, probably building the farms near the river here will probably be high moisture. There's a decent amount of mountain. We would have to do we could do some mining later on. And the resources are crazy, and we're not isolated. There's really very little forest, though, and I kind of like the idea of maybe a bit of a furniture industry. If I move over here, what are we looking at? Okay, I mean, the resources are lower, but they're still present. I don't know about the open land to forest ratio. You know, unless I just accept that we're going to do mostly farming. If we look at this area, 100% moisture, that's nice. Lots of clay, so we could do that. Arguably, maybe there's too much fresh water. Like maybe too much of the map is being eaten by a river. But it does feel like a pretty good place to colonize. 50% open land, no mountain at all. But we could save that for kind of a dwarfier run. And we might extract a few resources like the gems and things, but what I understand about this game is specializing is like your industry and stuff is definitely a good way to go. And then you fill in things with trade. So I kind of like this spot. I think I'm going to do it. All right, it's going to generate the rest of the empires in the world. We'll be able to see what our neighbors are. Now, sometimes I found that I only have one neighbor I can trade with. And I don't know. I think that might be the case over here. You can see the little green line that comes out of my capital of Petra only goes over here. So Usenar, which is a small town of lizard people, only 1,000 people in it. And it would be, I think, our only trading partner. I don't know if the size matters. I don't know what these resources are. Is that what they have an abundance of? I would actually much prefer to trade with these guys. I'm wondering if I regenerate now, does it keep my spot? Yeah, okay, but regenerate the kingdoms? Because I'm just wondering that something else might be a little bit better here. Okay, there's me. So there's my only trading partner, Narisan. So it is the bug people whose names I can never remember. It is a little bit bigger. And again, I don't know if this is what they provide. We're going to be making lots of grain. We still have these guys over there, but maybe we can... Oh, wait, hold on. Look, there's a green arrow leading to these guys over here. And if they do, in fact, produce mushrooms, clay bricks, which I think we're going to be fine on, but also stone, that might be quite nice. And I don't know what's involved in opening more trade partners. I think you can make deals with people. Like, if I negotiate something with these guys, can then I pass through to trade to the next one? Or is that just what we're going to have to worry about conquest for? I don't know the answers to that. We can't actually trade with these guys to the north. I think there's no green line, but maybe we'll figure out a way to open that up as we go. Welcome to our new settlement. This is where we're going to be building the foundation of our empire by this lovely river with a river bend. And in fact, I think I'm going to rename this. I realized I put in Petra as our city name, which is, one of our meme names, that and Brussels that we use all the time. But I think I might actually just call the settlement Riverbend. We can change the name of our settlement. Our faction is what they call it, but really it's our settlement in this case, once we're in the game. So we're going to be doing that. But before I do that, I have to plop down my throne room. This is going to act as the center of our city, and it is the thing we need to keep safe from any possible invaders. So as we take a look around, there's a few different places that we could consider starting off, but I'm inclined to settle over here near this river bend. I think that looks pretty good. It's relatively centered to the map. Obviously, the map center would be around here, but it's not too far from a few wild fruit, some wild grain, which is going to be useful. And if I go and zoom in, I've been looking at the map before we started over here, and take a look. Soil quality, the brightest area here is the highest soil quality. You can see with all these little pluses in here, this is a really good place for us to do a lot of farming. You can see the place where the forests are. They're darker colored. There's not as good to do the farming. We don't want to put farms in the foresty areas. This is the right kind of soil for that. Another filter that's going to be very useful is the moisture level, which of course is highest along the river. What's interesting though is that is not the highest soil quality. I guess along the river here, maybe it's a little too sandy, so it's not the best soil quality for farming, but I think the high moisture will make it really good for our pastures. I don't know if all the runoff from the pasture is going to go into the river and we're all going to get E. coli and die, but luckily, I don't think that mechanic exists in this game. So, we do have to put a little city center, and I didn't realize I can't rotate this. So no matter what, the door to this is going to face south, I think. I didn't realize we can't rotate this, which is a little bit of a shame, but what can you do, huh? So this dark land over here, I think this is our highest quality soil and where we're going to want to do a lot of our farming. So I don't really want to go and build our urban centers over here. I'm wondering about plopping down our city center in this area, which brings us even closer to the fruit, plus a bunch of surface stone, which is handy to have. I don't know what kind of rock this is right now. We could do this, and our first expansion could be sort of mostly eastward to set up farming. In fact, I might even go and put our first ranch right on the coast. That is going to be really far from our city center. Do I want to drop my city center in the forest? As we naturally build, or near the road? I mean, we don't have to do anything with this road. This road doesn't do anything, but it is convenient that it's there. Huh. Do I want to put my city center right down here along this road, near this fruit? A little far from the farming area. I think I'm going to go with my first instinct and put it down kind of in here. Maybe what I'll do is put it sort of... Oh. I wonder, is that surface stone? And I'm wondering if our initial city center can't be placed where there's stone because we don't have the ability to clear it yet. Other buildings you can plop down on top of stone and they will just go and clear it. Okay, you know what? I could spend a half an hour, figure out where to place this. I'm just going to plop it down there. Done. Our city is established, but let me do a little rename. If I go to the tab screen, we're going to rename this to Riverbend. I like that. And again, I might do some flag work or something as we go, but I think that is spiffy. And now if I go to the world map, we can see we're Riverbend over here. Lovely. And we've got our two neighbors that we can trade with. We've got Narsen to our south and Rovexti to our east. And I would love to be able to trade with Paquel, but I don't know how that works. It looks like this might be part of the same empire. Oh, yes, this is part of the Paquel Empire. I wonder if it gets... we just trade with the empire, I think, rather than individual cities. So I think this might be fine and groovy for us. We'll see how it goes as we go forward. We got our initial 10 people. Each one of them has a name and a fully generated description as well. You can see all the different folks that we've got. They let us know about some of the shortcomings that might be going on. And they're ready to go to work. I don't even know if you can rename your citizens in this, but we're not gonna. Oh, do we got a family tree? I mean, there's nothing right now because they're all the initial immigrants here, but that'll be really interesting to take a look at. Persecute. Elevate. For nobles. Oh, there's the rename subject. But we're going to have literally thousands of people in our town. I could name the initial batch, but honestly, I think we should just get used to the idea that they are going to be mostly nameless people. Now, if you do the tutorial, I think the first thing the tutorial gets you to do is build a warehouse. I think the first thing we're going to do is get some ranching going on because, of course, the first things we need to worry about in our colonies are going to be food, shelter, and then probably like overall like a stockpile space because that is going to be part of securing our resources. And then after that, we'll probably look into some services and things like that, keep people a little happier. We've got 10 humans is what we've started with. And right now they're red over here. Their loyalty and happiness are both set to 0. That's going to change as soon as we unpause because they just haven't recomputed their fulfillment from various things. And we're going to be looking at these things a whole bunch as we go forward. But I want to go and I want to set up our first pasture. Now, what I'm going to do is I think conceptually, out of the front door of our throne room, I think I'd like the idea of like thinking about kind of a large boulevard area that comes out of this and sort of a main east-west route. We can combine it. We can have it join this road over here. We might do another sort of major north-south route over here and do that. I think we'll probably standardize on a few different sizes for our roads. So what I was thinking is for a lot of our roads, we're probably going to do like 3 tiles wide. What's nice about this is when we make corners, we can put a little torch in the middle there, and our humans love torches, so that would be pretty good. Part of me is thinking, if we go with this sort of urban setting, is I might do a certain like block size, right? Let's say we have some length of a block like this, right? And inside of that we put a bunch of buildings. Now later on, however big these blocks are, we might have like huge mega buildings that occupy the whole block. But later on, but maybe some of them have that, but probably not all of them. Some will probably have lots of little buildings inside. And especially early on, I think we're really going to be looking for a lot of smaller buildings to just bootstrap things. That might later get bulldozed and replace the larger ones, or they might stay for historical reasons, which is kind of cool. But I'm wondering with the smaller buildings inside of these blocks, while the roads that divide the blocks up might be 3 tile wide, I might do these like sort of single width alleys in between things. It's sort of the urban, like kind of medieval city vibe that I kind of want to lean towards. So I mean, those are the sort of things I'm going to be looking at as we go forward. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw out this road just a 1 tile wide. Well, actually, I suppose I could leave 3 tiles because that's going to be the start of maybe this boulevard. And like I can build it to the coast. I think you can build the roads across as well and they'll act as a bridge. I don't actually want my people spending time working on this right now though. So I'm going to go to the gear. I'm going to suspend job and I'm going to do this. This is just going to be the sort of guideline for maybe our east-west boulevard that we'll eventually be expanding to. And then the reason I want to do that is because of all the moisture it should be quite a good place for us to put a pasture nearish to the coast. Oh, is this clay? Oh, no, it's just infertile soil. Ah. And this is till soil, not the best soil, but all right for agriculture. And then over here, rich soil, very suitable for farming. Yes, that's what we want. Okay, but if I go, back over here, husbandry, and we choose one of these pastures to get started, because in our throne room, we've got a few starting resources. We got some rations, which people will eat. We also got some fruit and veg, which is going to be nice. Got a little bit of wood and stone to start off with, and we also got 16 livestock. In Songs of Syx, livestock is utterly generic when it's in a stockpile. When you go and plop down a pasture, that's when it becomes that particular kind of critter on demand, which is very convenient. We are not going to be breeding Balti crawlers. These are mountainous kind of grub type things. This is the sort of thing that our dwarfy type people would probably be consuming mostly. So we can ignore that right away. Of the remaining three, so entolodonts are basically boars, I think, and they just produce meat. You can see under their production, they're right there, they would produce per kind of unit per day, 1.3 units of meat. If we compare that to the aurochs, they produce half as much meat, but they also produce leather. And if we look at the onx pastures, I think are goats or sheep or something maybe, they also produce half as much meat as the entolodonts, but they produce a lot of fiber. That is like looks like a cotton bud. I think cotton farms as well as the onxes just generate generic fibers, which are used universally there, as opposed to having a breakdown between wool and cotton. I can definitely see the value in getting this to power a tailoring industry. And I think the leather can be used for both clothing and armor, which is why you get less leather than you do the fabric. There might be I think there's some basic padded armor you can also make with the cotton over there, but I don't think it scales in terms of military the same way. Still, I feel like early on what we really just want is some meat production, and just to make sure to solidify our food source. So the first thing I'm going to do is put down an entolodont pasture, and I'm going to put it down in this area here, and it does put us in the moisture map. So if I go, let's say I just try to put one down over here, we can see the moisture in this area is 90%. Whereas I put it down over here, 100% moisture. So that's going to be a little bit better to get that going. And then we just have to figure out exactly what we're going to do. Well, that's interesting. This area over here is also very moist, and we know it's bad for farming. Do I want to put it right up against this? I think I want to leave some room. I don't need fisheries. Our humans do not have fish as a preference. If we do incorporate other species later on, that might change. But I do want to leave room maybe for pump houses for irrigation later on. So I might not want to do right up against the coast. So let's say we do this area, say starting from here and then going in. And then how big are we going to do it? I don't know. I'll do square 29 by 29. I think this is going to be big enough that we will use up all of our initial 16 livestock for this place. And that's actually a nice worker count. Your buildings will require workers, obviously, to work. And whereas a lot of your workshops, like if we get a furniture crafter, a carpenter, the worker slots are going to be based purely on what buildings, like what little workspaces I put inside of them. But for things like these pastures and farms, the number of workers is based on the number of tiles multiplied by things like moisture and things like that, because they can work more efficiently if those ratios are good. I'm actually not sure if that applies to the pastures so much as the farms, where the problem is if you Google like the best farm size, you'll get some numbers about like, oh, if you do this and this and this, it'll be an exact multiple of farmers to farm space, and that's the perfect answer. But I think some of that may be out of date, because I feel now like I can make two farms that are the same size, but they require a different number of workers based on the soil quality. So I'm not entirely sure about that. But what happens is normally when you assign this, it will default to assigning a number of workers. And in fact, the worker cap for this building will be set to this number rounded up. So in this case, it would be 9 workers. And that would be fine, because technically the workers would spend a microscopic amount of time idle, because we don't actually need the full 9, but it's pretty close. If I made this smaller, I could end up with maybe 8.1 required workers. Now that would still round up to 9, but that means effectively you got one dude sitting idle 90% of the time, right? Which isn't necessary. Now I didn't mean to right click and dismiss that. That is a bit of a shame. I can go and bring down that, the number of workers assigned. So if I plop this down at 8.1, I'd manually go and say, listen, just put 8 workers in here. It's going to be fine. But this works out nicely to save us a few clicks, which is what I like. Now, I can't go and build this right now because we need a gate. So I'm going to choose a gate here and apply it there. I'm going to rotate it and hopefully, does that look centered to everyone? I think it's centered. Hope it is. So we'll put a gate. This is how we access this area. And then the other thing is the efficiency. So all these worker buildings have these support buildings, these auxiliary buildings you tend to build to increase efficiency. So if I take the hut, you can see this little 2x1 hut we can put down would add 11% more efficiency. So I could put down 5 of these and get 55% efficiency. It does cap at 100%, but that would get us there. You can also like change the shape and size of these things. The 4-tile hut, which either in a 4x1 or 2x2, this is the big we can do, and it adds 0.23 efficiency, so 23%. So let's put a couple down there, and then I need an extra 5%. You can see here, if I put down another 4x4, it would only add that 5%. It just brings you to the cap, but we can save a little bit of material if I make this a little bit smaller. So there you go. Even the 2x1 is going to be enough for it. Let me rotate it and put it over here. 100% efficiency, looks good. We need 300 units of wood. I'm going to accept this, and I did halt this. Yes, okay, good. Dirt road is idle. That is perfect. We want that. So my people will come over here and start constructing it. There's a little bit of a distance. That's not ideal. Maybe it would have been better to be a little bit closer, but I think it's the sort of vibe we want. We aren't going to have enough wood because we only have 100 wood in here, so we're going to issue a command to fell some trees. If you plop down buildings on top of trees, they get auto-felled, but we're going to do that. So base speed. Speed 1, actually a bunch of these people are probably, yeah, like this. They're going to flop out in front of the throne. They are not taking a break. They're swearing fealty to me, as they should. Excellent. Now they're going to go to work. And I think they'll mostly do it by proximity over here. So they're going to chop down some of these trees and then they'll go and work on that. But we do need the trees chopped. I'm assuming I probably put way too much down here. Let me go and cut this down to something like this. I don't think we can get a preview of how much wood this is going to do, eh? No, it tells me how many jobs, but that's about it. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, speed 1 is very nice and pretty to look at, but not much is going to happen. I spend a lot of time playing on speed 2. I think that's going to feel pretty good. It still doesn't feel rushed, but there's less waiting, although the tree chopping is still pretty slow. So this is 1 time speed, this is 5 times speed, this is 25 times speed. If you click it again, it's 250 times speed. Excellent. Okay. Go, 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 go. Oh, and our first immigrant is being offered. So as you raise the happiness, you get more immigration. Or if the loyalty drops, you get emigration and other problems. And we're going to be looking at this extensively and how we can satisfy it through various things. But right now, things are going up right now because there's some natural happiness. And a big part of it, you see these bars, green is what it currently is, blue is what is happening. So there's been a recent good change. You can also see red as things go down. But a big thing is over here is natural propagation. We're allowing these humans to go and breed if they want. We've got no restriction about that. That's making them happy. Humans are the majority here. They like that as well. So that gave them an initial kick, and we've got some immigrants. We've got 1 person waiting to come in. And so what I can do with the 1 over here is I can authorize that 1. You can also double click over here to accept all immigrants of that kind at this time. You can also set a target. I could be like, listen, I'm going to set a target of 20, accept immigrants as they come in up until we get to 20. Now, we'll only be getting the immigrants if the happiness is high. Oh, we just got another one. We're at 12. But yeah, I don't mind boosting these numbers because we need some extra tree chopping pretty quickly here. Actually, we might have enough already. I'm going to go and cancel a few of these jobs. We're going to need some extra wood for the rest of our buildings too. But let me do that, finish this, because I want to get this up and running fairly soon. Some people are over here working on it already. They're going to be clearing some trees from this area as well. So we're going to get some wood like right where we're working, which is nice. If I expand my city into the forest, every time I plop down buildings over here, they're going to chop down all the trees and sort of use that in place, which is kind of convenient. All right, let's go up to 25 times speed. Actually, let's go to 250 speed over here. There we go. So they're clearing away all the shrubs, the extra wood over here, and then they're going to start the actual construction. Lovely. And get that going on. They'll build some fence. And then once that's done, we'll be assigning, I guess, 9 people potentially work here. We could lower that number initially, but we do want to get this going and producing meat as quickly as possible. We're now at 20 people. They're all unhomed right now, but they're still relatively happy. I don't want to accept any more because I don't want to get into a big unhappiness, disloyalty spiral. Because yeah, the loyalty is already not maxed out. People are feeling insecure about a lot of things. They don't have homes. They don't see us as having a lot of food. We do actually have some food because we have those rations over here, the fruit and veg, and people will eat those. But It's not stored inside of a warehouse, so they're not feeling the food security. These people are relaxing this time. They're no longer swearing fealty to me or anything like that. Oh, a little bit of a swim. In fact, Rosie, under fulfillment, probably just got a skinny dipping fulfillment. Humans love going for a little swim in the water. I think they tend to do that a lot more in the summer as well. Oh, speaking of, let's talk about the seasons. We're actually on the first day of summer already. We started in spring. Each season in this game has 4 days. There's 4 seasons, so therefore there's 16 days in a year. It is pretty hot and toasty in the summer, so they're going to go swimming. In the winter, it's going to get cold, so we're going to need a hearth to keep them warm. But I think I still like the idea of focusing on this first. There we go. So the pasture is now set up, and we are employing up to 9 people. It's set it to 9. They hire overtime. It'll get all the way up to 9. And what they're going to do is they're going to grab the livestock. So we have 16 stored up, if you remember. This pen can fit up to 16 or 22, which is fine. They'll grow and expand it, and that's going to be okay. And then they'll hit the max. We do have a decent skill bonus because the humans are actually pretty... Actually, no. Sorry, the humans don't have a bonus to it. This has got good moisture, so we're getting an 8% skill boost there. And the climate is really good for this, so we get an extra 10% boost over there. So we're going to get increased efficiency, which is lovely. And then as the animals get transferred over here, we're going to see the daily meat production and the daily livestock production go up. I mean, the livestock production will be a fraction of a whole number, but over time it will produce more livestock. That will get reinstalled in here until we hit the 22, but then they will start to get stored up in our stockpile, which is nice. So speaking of stockpile, by the way, every time you see this menu come up, it's because I hit escape as a way to try to close windows, like these windows over here, except escape doesn't close that, it's right click, which is a perfectly fine thing, but muscle memory being what it is, there's going to be a lot of trying to close windows by doing that, especially as we switch back and forth between games. Okay, next thing we're going to do is I do want to get a stockpile up, and then we'll do housing after that. I think I'm going to feel safe about that order. So I want to talk about the size of the city blocks that I want to work with. And because of reasons, I want to go with city blocks that have an internal space of 31 by 31. I think it's going to lead to this really nice structure. We're going to try to break it up. We're going to try to mix it up from time to time so it's not just all squares all the time. But as a bit of a baseline, I think that's going to work really nice. It's going to remind me of like the 11 by 11 internal spaces in RimWorld that you can base things around. So let's conceptually plan out a little bit of a city block over here. If I go to my row ads, and we're going to use dirt roads, which humans do get a little bit of fulfillment from. They don't think it's the fanciest, but it's better than not having roads, and it does give you a speed boost, which is nice. Low durability, they need constant maintenance, but we'll fix that. So if I want a 31 by 31 internal space from this midpoint over here, okay, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel those road jobs, since they were just suspended anyway. I mean, I could get rid of that road, but I'm going to keep it as a bit of a marker. So from here, if I stretch out 16, oh, you see those little pluses? Those are the desired path. This is where people were walking. Even though we didn't have a road here yet, that was the path that they were walking to get to that other thing, which makes sense. So if I do 16 by 16, and then sort of from that point, we go 31 by 31. So that's our internal space. So I need one more for the actual road. That leaves us a 31, well, theoretically will be a 31 by 31 internal block. I'm not going to draw out the whole block because that'll just generate some work jobs, but I'll get them to start working this. I won't suspend this job. That's going to be okay. And then the question is, well, actually, hold on. You know what? I changed my mind. So from here, I want to go 33 and then 33. And then down here to 33. Yeah, that all checks out. Good. Okay, 31 by 31 internal space. Sure, we'll do that. So I think I am going to use a 3-tile wide street for dividing my blocks. It's going to work out really nicely. We can put torches in there. It's going to look really nice. And later on, we might end up with huge mega structures, like a giant carpenter that fills a whole block. Certainly, we'll probably do something like that going forward. But early on, especially, we're going to do smaller buildings since they'll be a little bit easier to bootstrap. And even later, we might have these sort of mixed blocks with a lot of different buildings. And I'm thinking about these 1-tile wide little alleyways between things. I think that'll be kind of a cool vibe, and we'll sort of break up the interior of things. Anyway, if I'm going to build a warehouse, so we got a little search over here, which is very handy for our categories. Let's say I build it behind here and the same width, which is 7 tiles wide, which is very convenient because any wider than that, and we'd have to worry about internal supports for things. But I'm going to build quite a large warehouse. And then we need to populate with the crates. This isn't like RimWorld. You don't just put down a stockpile zone and have it filled up. We have to have crates, which are shelvings, which are where things go. So it's a 2x1 area, but that little, I don't know what that little rectangular area is supposed to represent, like the one above my mouse. It's only the pits with the arrows where things actually get stored. So this is a 1x7, but this would be 6 crates is what this is. And we're gonna have to figure out kind of a layout and structure for this. We can also go to double wide. I mean, the math works out the same here, right? Because I could do this, or I could do this. Either way, right, I'm getting 4 kind of rows and columns. I kind of like the double pack. I don't know if one is like going to be easier to navigate. I don't know. I think I'll probably just do this. Rotate you like that and like that. And then what do I want the middle section to look like? Do this and that, because I can't do that because I can't reach. No, I'm going to do this. Oh, that blocks that. I just want to shorten it. Okay. I mean, we could probably pack more crates into this zone, but that kind of appeals to me. Next thing, we need to specify walls. So by default, mud will be your walls. And the nice thing about mud is it doesn't take any material. The 66 wood over here is just for my crates. I think the mud takes a while to place and then also needs more maintenance. Plus, our humans don't care for mud buildings at all. Humans do like wooden buildings a fair bit. They prefer stone and really prefer the grand buildings, which need the cut and refined stone. But we're just going to go with wooden buildings over here, and I think that's going to be wooden walls. So now we need 140 wood just for the walls, plus the 66 for the crates. We also need some doors. We can't accept this right now because there's no way to get to it. So I think what I'm going to do is go right over here. Add a door. There. Okay, still at full 100% insulation. Okay, can I put one here too? Ooh, 95. Okay, I'm going to cancel that door. We'll have 3 doorways over here by that, and then a couple more over here to access it. And we still have 100% insulation. Good. Foundation is how solid the ground is. I think there's a tiny bit of instability over here. So we need to build a few extra foundations. So it's going to take 3% more material, but that's nothing. That's pretty good. Okay. Let's hit construct. This is a fairly large stockpile, but I think we'll appreciate it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to suspend the road jobs for the moment. We're going to reactivate them later. There we go. I want you to focus on constructing this, please. More human immigrants are willing to come in. I'm going to wait right now because they're okay, but something could go and backslide quite quickly. And so I'm going to wait until we've got the next, maybe a little bit of housing set up. I don't need everyone housed all the time, but I do want the vast majority of people housed so that we mostly get positive modifiers. Because the thing we want to do is we want to keep people happy. So first of all, they don't, start riots or anything like that. But mostly happier people means more immigrants, which means we can grow the city. And then we keep them happy. Then we grow the city and so on and so forth. And that's our main gameplay loop over there, is checking to see how we can increase fulfillment as much as possible. Is there any chance we're going to run out of wood? Oh, no, there's still plenty of wood over there. We're probably okay. Let's go to super fast speed. Okay. Okay, the outside stuff is done. And now the inside bits. And yeah, we could have made a much smaller stockpile to start off with, but I think it's going to be quite convenient to have this. Okay, stockpile is now done. We need to employ at least one person here. And in fact, what seems to be the case, what most people seem to do with these logistics buildings, they use the auto-employ. This will try to keep this workload parameter not at 100%. It'll try to employ enough people that we're not sitting at 100% workload, but if it drops too low, then they'll reduce the amount of employment. But this still doesn't do anything right now because your warehouse needs to be told what to put in these crates. We have 57 crates in this warehouse, but they haven't been assigned anything. What we can do is we could go and assign one crate to absolutely everything. And what's nice about this is going to allocate 42 crates. A bunch of these will be nothing. We can go and cancel those later on. But it does mean that people will go around and scoop up all the random crap that's lying around and put it in there. We'll have an actual concrete idea of what we got. I'm going to say right away, we're going to assign, I'm going to go up to 4 crates for the wood for sure, because we're going to want more of that stored up for construction. We'll probably need a bit more of a buffer for the stone as well. Oh, actually, shoot, did I miss my... Okay, it's the end of summer. We need to, before this finishes up, there are some wild fruits and things around. So there's some wild fruit. I want to go and forage for that. They mature at the end of summer, so you can't get them earlier. You can flag them to be foraged, and I think you can still harvest them throughout autumn. But I really want to harvest this stuff because this is going to supplement our food early on. So there's more wild fruit, and very importantly, this grain. Now the grain can't be eaten as is, but this is going to be used to plant our first grain farms. So just those three sources I think will be okay. 2 wild fruit, the grain over here. I mean, there's some more. There's some wild vegetables down here, some mushrooms, which we know we like mushrooms, but they're a little further away. You know what? I might get more grain just to make sure we've got plenty for our initial farm. So it's going to require some walking, but there you go. Now, where's my city center? Oh, over here. There you go. You can hotkey places as well, and I might make use of that, but let's see. So, what I might do, actually, I'm going to go and assign more workers immediately. Still make sure the auto employ is turned on. So it's just to initially get more people to help store this in, and then the automated thing should bring it down. Now you can see here the workforce, right? I have 19 people, but a certain number of them are needed by buildings, leaving only a certain number of odd jobbers. Odd jobbers are the ones responsible for constructing things, for example, and clearing trees. When I tell them to clear trees, they do that. So we don't want to run out of odd jobbers. And this is a good number to keep an eye on. If this is too high, that means we really don't have most of our people aren't gainfully employed in a really useful long-term way. If it drops down to nothing, that's also bad, because the odd jobbers are really, really important. But if we've got too many of them, that means we could probably go and open up more industry. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to see these resources go up as these numbers. So green means there's room, and you can see it start to fill. As this fills up, they will turn red to show that we are at full capacity, and that'd be a good thing for us to adjust. We will definitely tweak what this warehouse holds later on. We definitely don't want it to be a catch-all for everything, but I think this is going to be really handy to get started with. All right, I would like to go and get our people housed next. So I want to talk about how we're going to set up our housing, and just generally how housing works in this game. So we've got under services, we've got homes, and we've got house. If we do this, there's actually 3 different houses that we can have. Apartments, which are this big and can hold 3 residents. Houses, which are this big. Actually, I just pause for a sec. Apartment, housing, which holds 5 people, and longhouse, which holds 10. Now, I think maybe in previous versions, your different species might have had different preferences for the housing. I think they really cared more about like privacy and isolation stats. I don't think this version has that. I'm not sure. But like under environment, we do see that the humans, they don't like noise. They do want space. They don't want public punishment. Their buildings, they don't care about roundness versus squareness. So far, all of our buildings are square, and the Tilapia really want the round ones. And I thought that might have been a little awkward to work with. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think there's anything in here for like isolation. So I think they're perfectly happy to live in the biggest buildings. So that is what we're going to mostly base things around. And the reason that I went with this 31 by 31 internal space is because it actually works really nicely with the longhouses. What I found is that, where's the middle point over here? It's actually easier to see the middle point if I do, yeah, that. If I do the 3 like this, we actually end up with a really interesting pattern, because if I do this, this will fit perfectly inside of a 31 by 31 internal space. Now this can't work as is because we've got this big empty place that can't be reached. But I want you to imagine, let's say I were to cancel this and this. And then we did cancel the walls there. So let me go and put structures and walls, and it should still be set to wooden, good. And then we do something like this to just enclose those buildings, which they do want to be enclosed, I think, for insulation purposes. Right, then all of a sudden we've got a nice little walkway that can enter this courtyard. We ended up with a 15 by 15 internal space where I can put some of the basic services for my people. And I think this appeals to me quite a lot. I was doing this and then I was watching some YouTube videos and I actually saw, what's it called? It's like the Dondarian Times. They actually did something very similar to this. I think theirs is a little fancier because I think theirs uses houses for these little chunks instead of long houses. And I think it gave them a little bit more of a buffer to put like some noise barriers or something like that. But I was like, hey, this kind of proves that this idea must be viable if other people are doing it, which feels really good. Now, these houses are all pointing outwards, and I actually think what I'd probably want to do is have the houses facing inward instead, so that people kind of walk into this courtyard and then go to their houses. I don't know if that makes more sense from a pathfinding and optimization point of view, but isn't it lovely, right? Doesn't that feel really nice? So I think that's what I'm going to do for the housing. So what I'm going to do is we're going to cancel all of this. Oh, and these little roads. I'm leaving these houses up for just a second as a bit of a guide. House this, longhouse, yes. Let's do a one size. Just going to line it up over here. Oh, I need to make sure. Oh, I forgot about that. First of all, I didn't cancel all these jobs. Secondly, I need to leave enough room for the full road. So I should really just use the search a little bit more, right? Because the road is going to be 3 tiles wide is what I want for these main roads. In fact, just to prevent me from accidentally putting a building where I'm going to want these 3 tile wide roads. And this one here, again, might end up being wider as more of a boulevard. Then I'm going to go and put suspend jobs. Okay, I don't think that suspends these buildings. They still have workers. Yeah, okay, good. Just suspending the building jobs. Thank you. That is exactly what I wanted. And then if we go over here and choose house, and then, yeah, I'm just going to line it up that way and do that, and line it up that way and do that. And I'm just going to start with these 2, which are how's everyone we've got, although we're going to be accepting some more immigrants fairly soon. But yeah, we're going to do that, and that'll be the foundation that we use sort of for our structure. So I kind of like this idea of using this block size as a bit of a default. We could, this actually might be a good place for us to put some food stalls and things like that. Right next to the warehouse, we'll grab things from, and then there'll be some housing over here. We can even build a market in this area. That actually looks nice and really building sort of a city center kind of vibe to it. So I think this might be a good place to put a cut for the first episode. We've got some food theoretically starting to build up. We're up to 13 animals, so not all the livestock have been moved yet, or some of it may have decayed. Do you have livestock underneath you who's just relaxing in here? Or it might be still in transit because it's not in the stockpile because it would show up there. The livestock does decrease. So if you mouse over here, you can see a decay rate. Things do go and decay. They decay slower if they're in a proper storage, but they still decay over here. Nothing lasts forever, even in the storage. So we might have lost some, or maybe it was transport. Anyway, we've got 13 animals over here. Right now, our food production is very low. We're only getting about 0.7 units of food per day. Now, a big part of that reason is we... So, I mean, there's the base rate, which is based, I think, on the size of things. And then but we're not at our full animal capacity. So you can see we're getting 59% efficiency from that as a multiplier. And then adult animals, 0.1. These are young animals. They haven't grown. Soon they will produce a lot of meat. And if they do 1.1 meat per animal, well, there's that capacity thing. Actually, I don't know how this math is going to work out. But this will start to produce a bunch of meat. And a bunch of food for us, which is going to be great. Speaking of food, now that we got our food stored in the actual warehouse, we can see here, this is 7 days worth of food. And we can see our production rate, which is 0.7, which is very low right now, but we will do some more harvesting on the map. And we're consuming 10 per day because everyone consumes a half a unit per food every day. I think maybe they just go and eat every other day, basically, is the sort of thing. I think every food is nutritionally equivalent in terms of how much they need to survive, but our people do have food preferences. So our humans will want to eat bread, meat, mushrooms, and eggs. Great English breakfast, or the start of one anyway. They will be happier if they eat that. I don't think they get any unhappiness, but unhappiness, other than the few things that they actively hate, isn't as much of a thing. It's more about, are you filling up my fulfillment bar by serving me the things I like? If you don't, well, then I'm not generating anything over here. You can see our humans are happy because we have multiple days of food starting to be stored up. I don't know what the cap is. I don't know how much food needs to be stored up to fully satisfy them. Maybe a year, maybe it's 16 days worth of food would give them 100% filled out on this bar. I don't know. And you can see the food preference. If they're eating the food they prefer the most, then that will be filled up as well. And then you can offer them more servings and things like this as well. There's lots of different ways for us to boost those numbers. But anyway, I think this is a swell start to our city. Not looking very urban right now, but I think we will develop it quite quickly. And you can see my fruit storage is full. So there's probably still some fruit sitting around on the map somewhere. Let me go and bring this up to like 4 crates to fruit. We're not producing it, but we were picking the wild fruit, and we want to make sure there's plenty of room for that. And actually, I'm going to do the same thing with the grain, because we're also picking up some of that. And I definitely want to make sure we've got a bunch stockpiled. It is 80 units per crate, so that's 4 crates, 320 grain, and we'll see what's on the map. If, you know, some of the wood sits around, it's not the end of the world. Again, it will decay faster, not in storage. I don't know how to read this. I think, like with the wood, I think we lose 10% of all the wood that's been cut along the map, just sort of gets lost as an average per year. The minus 5%, I think, is the rate when it's stored. Are they all listed this way with the half? I guess it's half. Yeah, I think they decay half as fast if they're in a storage. I think this is what this represents. You can see stone basically never decays, right? Very, very slow. But other things do. The raw meat does. One of the interesting things about grain is grain itself doesn't decay very quickly. It's at 10%. But if we turn it into bread, which we ultimately want for food, it goes bad very quickly, which makes sense. Bread is not something you store long term, but grain is. So we don't necessarily want to be aggressively converting all of our grain into bread. We just want to convert enough bread to sustain our population. If we do end up with excess, we can sell it. But anyway, these are all future plans. Folks, thank you so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, of course, subscribe. That is incredibly important so that you don't miss an episode. And generally speaking, dropping a like and a comment is really useful for the YouTube algorithm. So that's always appreciated. And again, if you do want to join the Discord, you can do it. If you become a YouTube member, a Twitch subscriber, or a Patreon supporter, you can get access to the Discord. And then you can yell at me much more directly. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.